I'm very excited to present Jocker Room today, episode 2. Are we going to be able to keep track of how many episodes
I
that
don't
we
know.
have
We
with
got
us?
to we got to 69 on the other one, and then it was like 70. It doesn't matter after that. So
Yeah, that's the last number that
um
really has any importance.
yeah, 100 maybe, but we forgot we don't know where we're at.
We're
So
probably blasted past it.
blasted past it.
Blasted past it. But today we have some NBA talk and we have some NFL talk. We're going to talk Jrue Holiday that we, predicted right as it happened,
Yeah,
said it was the first thing.
all the teams that were interested in Dame were probably also going to be interested in Drew, and sure enough, the two teams I think we said right off the bat were Miami and Boston. And we even said like how they lost Marcus Smart and they could use a perimeter defender. Um, and they got him. Like I mean, they
They
traded. I got
upgraded
the
huge.
full. Yeah, no, he's a huge upgrade.
Yeah.
I
Without
don't
giving up
know.
a ton.
Right.
But they
So,
give up for him. Grant Williams.
no, Grant Williams is on the Mavericks.
That's the one. Yeah.
Uh, I got the full compensation for Dame right now.
For
So
Dame or for
initial
Drew?
for Dame, I got the compensation for Drew.
Okay.
But then I have the full list of what they've gotten from Dame for
Sure.
Dame. So they got Rob Williams. Robert Williams is the kind of I feel like he's struggled to kind of find his role. People wanted to put him into the like they thought he could be like at that Bam level
Right.
of defender, kind of like a versatile big man, but he's like 6'9". He can guard multiple positions, but he's kind of also a liability on offense, whereas Bam can give you a little bit more in that regard. And Al Horford just did everything better without mistakes. And I
Hmm.
think that's kind of, I don't know. It's, I don't think his time in Boston was long. So,
Sure.
um, Rob Williams, um, Malcolm Brogdon, who I think is probably on the move again, like another piece that's on the move. So I don't even know if the Dame trade is done yet. Um, and then the 2024 first round pick of the Warriors and 2029 Boston first round pick. So all these picks that are giving up are also later picks.
Yeah.
Like even for the Dame trade, it was all the Bucks picks.
Sure.
And so the odds that the Blazers are going to have the one first round pick and then the two swaps, like I doubt the swaps will ever be like the Blazers would take the Bucks pick when the Blazers pick is probably going to be lower. So
Sure. I mean, until Scoot comes in, immediate
yeah,
MVP.
guns blazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be a fun rookie of the year race because I'm
Yeah.
really high on like Chet. Like I think Chet's my personal favorite. But I also think hype is a lot of it because whereas I also think Anthony Edwards was deserving of rookie of the year, but
Well,
then
he was.
the hype around LaMelo was like, oh, LaMelo is the rookie of the year. So
Yep.
so yeah, it's kind of a 4 team race. It's Wemby, Scoot, Chet, and then Ben Simmons. So
Oh, yep. Blake Griffin as well. I think he's in
right.
there.
Yeah. So um yeah, I don't know. I think that's actually a bigger W trade for the Blazers than the Dame trade was, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
I think they got
absolutely.
more for Drew than they did for Dame equivocally.
Sure.
So yeah.
Like they got less of what you would have expected them to get for Dame, but they got a little bit more of what you would have expected them to get to Drew for Drew. So it
Right.
turned out a little bit more balanced.
Right.
But I definitely think that Portland did well in both trades.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
but this one definitely felt really it's you knew Drew wasn't going to fit on the team, and they
Right.
got a defensive big, which they needed because Aiton's not going to play defense and
Right.
Nurkic is gone. So
Right.
I think Portland they could surprise some people in the West. There are some teams that could fall. So they still look if the young players actually play to what you want them to play to
Sure.
is kind of the
If
problem.
Scoot can have like 15 points, 16 points,
They're
and
gonna be like the
eight
Kings from 3 years
rebounds,
ago.
7, 8 rebounds. Yeah. Yeah. If
That's
Scoot
like,
could do like a
yeah,
16, 5-7 or something like that, then like, yeah, we'll see.
Well, I mean, it'll probably be 26, 15, and 17 if you're being more realistic. But
right,
Scoot's just, I do think he's going to be good. Obviously,
I'm high on Scoot too. I'm high on honestly all three the front runners for Rookie of the Year. So like I'm ready for it. But I am very high on Chet. So
sure.
That's just me.
Well, I think that Boston becomes the immediate favorite, and they should be. There's no reason why you should put the Bucks ahead of them. There's no reason why you should put the Sixers ahead of them. There's no reason why you should put anybody in the East above Boston. There's no team.
I agree.
I think they not only do they have good stars, but they're role players, or they're players that like the positions they play fit so well. We're also assuming that they're just going to mesh, but Jrue Holiday meshed immediately on Milwaukee. He's going to mesh immediately. He's just a very, very smart basketball player and a good locker room. Like,
and if you need to play, I think they have a kind of a question mark. The one thing I think Boston has a question mark is what their bigs rotation is going to be. Because I like Jrue, JB, and Tatum, like Jrue, Brown, and Tatum, they're going to be the starters no matter what. But like you have Kristaps too, so like, are you going to play Kristaps at the 4, which I think is smart? I think you put Kristaps at the 4 and you have Horford just play defense and do what Horford does.
Yeah,
but the spacing's also weird now with them, I guess. Yep. So I think that's a kind of a question mark, is figuring out.
Jrue likes to drive. Both of the bigs like to pop out to corners.
Right. But it's something where you like, do you bring Derek White in? Like, because like Derek White's probably their first man off the bench now, assuming Horford starts. Do you play a little smaller and bring Derek White in, and now Jason Tatum's like, your death lineup has like Kristaps in it, and Tatum's at the 4, and you're playing small. I don't know.
Yeah, that would probably be good. I think that you could, in theory, also do Derek White and Kristaps as your 1-2 off the bench. But then the question is, who is the 4 in his place? Or is there a 5 with Horford as that's your big question, I think, for sure.
Or does Horford come off the bench? Like, I don't know.
Horford could at this point in his career, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, he keeps saying that, and then he's like 13 points, 9 rebounds in the playoffs, and he's 48 years old.
Him and Robin Lopez, I feel like, have been in the league for so long, and they just keep doing things. It's like, okay, that's fine.
So
maybe, after what they were saying, I think it was Stephen A. or somebody was saying about him last year, DeMarcus Cousins.
I mean, it'd be disgusting.
Celtics signed DeMarcus Cousins. Either he becomes that backup guy, or I think it would be good. He's that one free agent out there. I'm like, there's no way he's washed. He didn't fall off the face of the earth.
Right.
Like, there's no way you could tell
me. Is he Sacramento DeMarcus Cousins? No, but like, I don't know. I mean, there might be a shadow of Pelicans DeMarcus Cousins. I don't know.
Even a bad DeMarcus Cousins gets you like 9 and 8.
Right.
Who doesn't want that with their starters and their depth with scoring?
And he can space too. He can space a little too. Yeah. Like, he's not great, but I mean, like, he can do it. So yeah, I don't know. Boston's my favorite as well. I think Boston, Milwaukee. I mean, Miami. I don't want to say Philadelphia because I don't know what the hell is happening with James Harden. So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, for the next thing, I would do Cleveland as my third.
Sure.
But I really want them to do well. I want them to do well.
Yeah.
I know they don't have Sexland anymore, but I still like their roster. It feels like an all-star team.
Yeah, it's tough with Cleveland because like they don't really have any playoff risers. You know what I mean? It's like Donovan Mitchell forgot how to play basketball in the playoffs, and like it I don't know. It was rough for them in the playoffs.
Evan Mobley was expected to step up, but you're expecting a really young guy to step up.
Yeah, I mean, that's his second year. He's he's seen as more of a defensive guy too, obviously. But like, yeah, I don't know. Jared Allen
felt like a lot of weight on guys that weren't ready for it yet.
Right. Yeah.
But maybe now that they have the experience, they'll be able to go a little bit further.
Sure.
I don't know. And Nuggets and Phoenix, like the Suns and the Nuggets versus
Do you know
the Celtics and the Bucks.
the win totals came out? Just a little tangent about now we're talking about the West, but win totals came out, and guess who was number two? Guess who's number two? The Denver Nuggets were projected to win 48.5 games.
Oh my god, okay.
Okay. Minnesota Timberwolves were projected to get like 47.7.
Bet the under.
So and then Phoenix was out. Phoenix was after that. So
After that?
someone yeah, it was Nuggets.
So the Wolves are projected
Wolves,
second
Phoenix.
in the West.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Do
we'll
they know
see.
something we don't know?
I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But,
So that's everybody playing healthy, everybody playing optimally.
Yeah.
That's like the rule with the Wolves is you bet the under.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
so
We're
that's a high
expecting
number.
disappointment, but like if they were healthy, if they were completely healthy through the entire season, could they do that?
If this team was completely healthy, if you said that they got 50 wins, I wouldn't be surprised.
Right.
They're a good enough team, especially I don't know if that team would necessarily go far in the playoffs, but do I think they could be a 50-win regular season team? Sure.
Yeah.
If they all stayed healthy, why not? Like they have a starting 10, like a clear starting 5 plus a backup 5.
Yeah, and even if you want to cut that, if you even want to cut that down to 9,
yep.
Like your 4 are Shake Milton, probably. Yep. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, which could start. Nas and Kyle Anderson. So
yep. And then my 5th there would be Garza.
Sure. Yeah. I think you need him in a situation where you just need a body to get in front of Jokic too.
Yep. He also just loves to score.
Yeah. Luka's in a really weird spot because like he's good enough to be in the bench, like off the bench unit, but he's also like he's good enough to be off the bench.
What the bench needs.
Because they have Nas, right? Yep. Like they don't like Nas does everything a little bit better.
Nas and Shake as your offense.
Right.
Slow-mo likes to take threes.
Nas just the 3-and-D guy. Like and then but Garza's like better than anybody in the like reserves. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He's like in that weird thing. Same with like Leonard Miller. Like there's
Leonard Miller
you want to
and
give
Moore
Leonard
find
Miller
themselves off the starting roster because of those 10.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Leonard, you want to give Leonard Miller time, but it's like there's no time for him. Like there's no minutes for him right now, which is
and you don't want to necessarily hope that somebody doesn't play well. Right. But in the chance that Slow-mo and Na don't live up to their extensions, that's when Leonard Miller and Wendell Moore get their chance.
Sure.
But as of now, I think they're leaning towards Wendell Moore probably either becoming a future replacement or not being on the team.
Yeah.
And then I think Leonard Miller is somebody that they're like, what are we? Like, they probably aren't sure exactly what to do.
They're like,
he'd be a 3.
He'd probably be a 4. He's like 6'11".
4. So 4.
Yeah, he's very Bosch like. I guess
it's him and Garza fighting for that 10th
spot.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah,
that's hard because I think both are playing too well.
Yeah, they both did really good. Yeah, these first two preseason games, they both did really good.
Garza looked good last year too. Every time he got a chance,
he
was like Nas. I don't know why they're not giving him the chances Nas got.
Yeah,
because Garza every time he comes in does what Nas. Was doing when he got a chance.
Yeah, I think Nas is a little bit more mobile.
Yeah. He's also a slightly better shooter, more efficient.
Right. He's a little bit more mobile, which helps from a defensive aspect because Garza's not a great defender because he can't move all well compared to a lot of our other bigs. Yeah. No, he's a good piece, man. Like he's probably like that 10th guy, that 11th guy. You know what I mean? So
him and Leonard Miller on games where they feel they can go for an 11-man rotation. Maybe when if we have got multiple guys out, I want to see Leonard Miller and Garza get the most minutes. Those are who I want to see get the filler times. Like, looks like we're up by 30 because we're playing the Hornets.
Right.
So looks like we can put in our bench guys and have like Wendell Moore, Luka Garza, Leonard Miller. Put them all in there, see what they can do.
Sure. Right.
Anyway. that's probably enough basketball talk.
Yeah,
Let's talk the NFL discussion, which is
sure.
Jonathan Taylor got his extension.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
excited. I'm a huge J Train guy. Even though everyone in fantasy hates him because he was the consensus number one pick last year after his explosion of the season, and the Colts fell short. Um, Kind of hard to do that with a revolving door at quarterback, which the Colts have had for a long time.
yeah, for sure.
I hope Anthony Richardson can right that ship and command that offense. But
He's
yeah,
so good.
Jonathan
I love
Taylor.
Anthony Richardson.
Yeah,
I also
Jonathan
just want to,
Taylor.
I'm going to say this every time I get the chance. CJ Stroud was my number one quarterback out of this class.
He was also mine, and I was really high on Anthony Richardson because I know you don't want to draft someone just based off their athletics, but he broke combine records for
Yep.
quarterbacks in the athletics, and so that's someone you almost have to like
Give a
take a chance
chance.
on.
It's like John Ross. He wasn't a first round wide receiver, but with that 40-yard dash time, you have to
Yeah,
take a
you have to
risk.
see. You're right, right. So yeah, I don't know. I was high on Anthony Richardson too. And Bryce Young is very small.
Yeah.
He's
Everything I
very
thought about Bryce.
small.
Well, and all of his compliments were like he just has
Intelligence.
that X factor. He
Right.
just whatever it is, he has it. It's like, yeah, that's great, but it's also good to have things to back it up. Like now you're hearing, oh, he had a hard time figuring out defenses. He has a hard time seeing the middle of the field. And you're hearing like all these things like, oh, you surprising that you weren't. This is all what the critics were saying they were like haters for.
Right.
Oh, he looks like he has a hard time seeing the middle of the field.
Where
Looks,
there's smoke, there's fire. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like that's like if someone says something or someone who's um if a lot of analysts, people that do this for their everyday job, not just two guys on YouTube, but if they say that like he's too short, he has trouble doing these things, and then you see him in the game, and now it's like, well, he's it looks
too
like he's a little bit
short.
too short, and he's having trouble doing these things. It's like, well, I get that. Like you can fall in love with a guy, but you also have to. Not every guy's perfect. You're gonna have strengths and weaknesses,
Yeah.
and do the weaknesses outweigh the strengths?
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah, I don't
if
know.
there's a lot of unknowns and everything is projections, like, oh, if I don't know if this is a weakness or a strength, take it as a weakness every time. If it's an
Right?
unknown, take it as
Yeah,
a weakness.
especially with picking a franchise quarterback, like
Yeah.
you have
Your
to hit the
job
nail on the head.
relies on how successful he is.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
he's not successful, you
So,
may be out of a job.
and now I think it's also funny that they're looking for a number one wide receiver. Um, you had a number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
Some guy that actually went for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns on Thursday night. So,
Well, they have
um,
one. They just
yeah,
Andy Dalton's the only one that knows how to use him.
exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. When you get to those top three quarterbacks, I was pro Stroud, and then I was pro Richardson.
Yep. I thought
And then
Richardson and Stroud were great choices, but I thought Stroud was going to be the best quarterback out of the three.
I think from a fundamental standpoint, Stroud was head and shoulders above Bryce Young just by standing there.
And then
so,
Anthony Richardson's head and shoulders above everyone because he's huge.
he's a big dude.
I'm pretty sure Stroud's also like 6'5". Like they're
yeah. I think
6'3".
Anthony Richardson's like 6'3", 6'4", and
Yeah,
then
he's
Stroud is
big.
like 6'1.5", 6'2", something like that. So like, but Bryce Young's like 5'9", and
Just like Kyler, every year like the height gets lower, and it's like
right.
which one? What's the most accurate? Like Kyler's probably 5'9", 5'7", 5'8", 5'6".
I don't know. I think I've given Kyler a lot of flack over the last couple of years just because I think the media views him too high.
They do.
As like, but I do think Kyler's a good quarterback. I think Kyler's leaps and bounds ahead of Bryce Young. If you even like, I don't think there's a comparison at all because Kyler can rip it. Like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm back to
Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor. I'm surprised. I did not expect it. I think a lot of people were expecting a trade. But then on Wednesday he did practice and he did a media availability, which was kind of surprising because everyone still thought he had like that sour taste in his mouth from the whole situation being put on
Pause.
the pup. What?
No, you're good. He's a sour
Uh,
taste in his mouth, and I said pause.
uh, uh so he was put on the pup. And I think he didn't like that. I don't like everyone thought like they just did that to spite him almost.
Yeah.
And we don't know the whole thing because apparently he got minor surgery and tweaked something or fixed something. But
It
now
was
he's
my
back.
leg. It was my back.
Yeah, ankle, I don't know,
Neck,
whatever it
back.
was. Yeah. Crack. So yeah, no, I'm very happy. I do think running backs deserve a lot, especially when they are the focal point of the team. You're seeing it with the Giants right now. Like they don't have Saquon, and they are probably the worst team in football. And that's saying they're 1-3, and the Commanders are. Oh wait, the Commanders are 2-3. There's Broncos are 0-4,
No,
and
Broncos beat the Bears, didn't they?
I don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Anyway, I think the Giants are probably the worst team in the league right now because Saquon is the whole reason, like they tick.
Anything
So
moves. Yeah.
yeah. Because like teams are just like, we're just gonna guard Waller because Daniel Jones can't throw. Their offensive line is horrible. But if Saquon was there, you can't do that. Like you
No.
can't do that. So Jonathan Taylor's that same kind of player. I think Anthony Richardson has been impressive so far in his 3 out of 4
He's
games. He
been
missed a
crazy. I
game.
think he's been crazy exceeding
Yeah,
expectations.
yeah.
I thought he
He's
was going to be good, but I didn't think he was going to be this good this quick.
right. And he missed a game because of concussion. But like, and he needs. I mean, even Trevor Lawrence told him you need to protect yourself more. Like
Yep.
when they played, he's like, you need to protect yourself more. Those hits will rack up. But I think the Colts, that division's kind of up for grabs.
Yep.
Houston, Tennessee, Jacksonville, and Indianapolis. So
Is that AFC South?
yes,
So AFC South and NFC South are both just complete up for
yeah,
grabs divisions.
yeah. You just don't know. Um,
I mean, one
I
has Baker Mayfield, so that's probably the best team.
right,
So
right,
that's makes sense.
right. I think I don't know. I'd watch out for the Colts if they can just if Jonathan Taylor, they're going to be splitting carries with Zach Moss, but if he can figure it out, like if he can, Jonathan Taylor can get back to like true form, and
Yeah.
that's just going to help Anthony Richardson so much.
I think the
too.
Colts and the Chargers are both teams that everybody goes, they're gonna be good. They're gonna be good. And like every year it's like, God, they weren't good.
Yeah.
And I and like the Jags and Falcons get there. Like people, it seems like they have a lot of people wanting them to be good. They just aren't as good as they want them to be.
Right.
But the Colts and the Chargers are both of those teams that they seem the most to be like, God, they're gonna be good. They're gonna be good.
Right. And maybe that's just
they
the
just
like
make the
past
pass.
success. You know what I mean? Like the Peyton success and the Philip Rivers success.
Antonio Gates,
right.
LT.
Right. So yeah, maybe that's it. But I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know what it is.
I'm very happy. So it was 3 years, 42 mil, 26.5 guaranteed.
So not as much as was reported that he was asking for.
Right. But still, that's 14 million a year if you know. So I don't know. I'm for it in regards to them being a focal point of your team. If running back is not a focal point of your team, you just got to find someone serviceable. But there's I don't think that the entire way of the NFL switching to running backs not being needed. Not every team is going to have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, so you don't need a 7th round Pacheco. That's all they need, right? And so there's different teams, and they can zig while other teams are zagging. I think I'm okay with that because the Timberwolves are doing that same thing. They're zigging while people are zagging. And if you're confident in your coaching staff and players, I'm all for it. So
they have too much young talent to go for risks. That's why Anthony Richardson was a risk worth taking. Jonathan Taylor is that safest thing that you can have. Quentin Nelson with Jonathan Taylor. My overall opinion on the Jonathan Taylor thing is that when they were looking to trade him, they wanted just a ton of value, but they didn't want to give him that value in a contract, which they
Right.
eventually did give it to him. And I think they eventually probably came to that conclusion too. Like, why are we asking for so much if we're not willing to give him a lot? Let's just give him what we think he's worth. And then they got it done. And that was my whole thing this whole time, is like, if you don't think he's worth anything, then you should trade him for 3 fifth-round picks and get out of there.
Yeah.
Like, just get rid of something.
You will
Give him
not
something.
like, you can't, like, Jonathan Taylor 2 seasons ago when he got the rushing title. You saw that possibility, that potential. It's hard to find someone even in the 5th round. Say you acquire 5th round picks or whatever. You're like McCaffrey traded for a 1st and a 3rd. You know what I mean? Like, you might be able to find that talent in that situation, but it's not easy to find that equivalent talent from those picks. So you have to decide if trading for those picks is worth it, or just pay the guy that
everybody loves
can
picks
do
until
that.
the pick's made. As
Right.
soon as the pick is made, they all hate it. Like, oh, I
Right.
love that we got 3/4. But the 4th round pick comes in and the fans are like, great, what's that guy gonna do?
And
for
then the
us?
next time your team plays the team that traded for Jonathan Taylor, he's going to run for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
And he's
like,
gonna
that's
truck that 4th round linebacker you picked.
You're right. So I don't know. I'm if you think you can get that equivalent value, you better have that value on the roster already.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm
I
happy
think
for
their
Jonathan
options
Taylor.
were
I like
do
Jonathan
what
Taylor.
they did or pick up Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
I thought those were probably the 2 options.
Sure. So yeah, I don't know. I'm happy for Jonathan Taylor, J Train. So I'm happy for him.
I'm pumped too. I had one of my jerseys that I no longer have. I still to this day don't know where it went. Colts jersey was one of the first football jerseys I owned, so I always have kind of like rooting for them for no reason.
Sure.
Joseph Adai, for anybody who's wondering, it was a Joseph Adai jersey.
Sure.
Yeah, and they've always had people I've liked, Dwight Freeney, and they've always had such good fun like players. Marvin Harrison.
Right.
Anyway, that's all we got for sports today. We got Jrue Holiday, Jonathan Taylor. We got a little bit of Wolves talk in there. Vikings versus Chiefs. We're gonna see what happens there. Otherwise, if you let us, do you think the Colts made a good decision with what we've seen with running backs so far, with Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, where these teams either look to move off of them or the running back falls off? Do you think the Colts made a good decision? And do you agree the Celtics are the top team in the East, or do you still think, like much of the media, that it's the Bucks by a mile? Yeah, let us know in the comments, Twitter, all that stuff. Again, it's Room Jocker on Twitter. Otherwise, just want to let you know, you all look great today.
we need a jingle.
We need a jingle for the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
Jingle. All right, we got
the
it.
Jocker jingle. The Jocker jingle.
That sounds like a creepy British villain. He's the Jocker jingle.
It sounds like a creepy British disease.
Yeah. Oh, he's got the Jocker jingle. Yeah, he went and saw a hooker last week. Now he's got the Jocker jingle.